Jatan, you have been here for most everything, including the founding of Owensboro and the separation of Daviess County from Ohio County. I thought probably you had most of the history there. And by way of introduction, Jatan Shaw is a former executive director of the Green River District. I've had the opportunity to work very closely with him. And even though he has retired, and Kathy has him traveling between here and the West Coast, he still is an integral part of our community. And welcome you back from the West Coast. Or are you in California?
I'm in Daviess County, the God's country.
Yeah. All right, it's your time to buy lunch then.
Yeah.
Why don't you start us out with a little history when we started, and just this is a conversation, folks. Anybody?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay?
I would make a little comment, then I'm going to turn it over to the president of the Oscar Owensboro Sister City and Regions. My involvement with the Sister City was in 1994 when the city was talking about working with Olomouc, and there was some initial discussion with the elected officials and folks like that. But since then, we have given a birth to Sister Region. But I believe that the main purpose for this discussion is about Sister City, between Owensboro and also with Owensboro and Olomouc in Czech Republic. But at the same time, how the Daviess County Fiscal Court and especially you, Judge, have been so strongly supportive of international relations. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Michael. Then I'll come back and maybe talk about the Sister Region part of the partnership that we have. Michael.
Well, thanks, Jatan, and thanks to Ross and Elaine for being here today too. I'm excited to have this group together, and it's a pleasure to see you too, Jordan. As far as just I guess a quick history. Jatan's right. It was I believe in July of 1994 there was a joint resolution signed by officials in Owensboro and in Olomouc, and since then, the partnership between our communities has just continued to grow. We had some commonality between the communities, I think, which helped in the search. The search actually started around 1991. It wasn't until 94, though, that the resolution was actually signed. And our relationship with them is we're approaching 30 years now. And our exchanges with them have been extensive, ranging in everything from, education and the arts to community service and professional and economic development. So we're real pleased with the relationship there. The development of our relationship with the CRI that Jatan's involved with is an obvious sign of that, because our relationship with Olomouc has gone so far as to involve a regional partnership, not just with the local community, but with the region in general. And so we just continue to focus on a variety of ways to partner with them and to connect with them, to look at building just a deeper relationship. And Olomouc will tell you, they have a lot of sister cities, probably 15 or 20, and they've been at this a much longer period of time. And they'll tell you, and they'll tell anybody, that their relationship with us is one of the best that they have. And that's against sister city relationships with cities and county areas that are much larger than us. So it's a great, it's a great relationship. And I can give you information, Judge, about some of the commonalities between the two, in terms of why we believe that there's enough to create a deeper relationship.
I think that would be good. I think a lot of folks while they've heard the term sister cities, really don't know what that relationship is. And when you talk about sisters or brothers, you talk about a familial relationship, and there are certain things that bond the family together. So what are some of those commonalities?
Well, they're both located along the river, and they're river towns, and they're surrounded by a lot of rural county support. Um, and so that's those are big items. They both are strong in education. They both have colleges and university campuses. The city population, really, we've always considered this organization to be countywide, even more than that, just simply because of our relationships with educational institutions that go beyond the county. And so we've always thought of the county as sort of a solid piece to the foundation of the organization. And that's how this ties in from a population standpoint with Olomouc, because the population of Olomouc is about the same as the county. And so I think that's an important factor. There's also community commonality between us, in that we have major employers in the industries of healthcare and, of course, education, and we each have a variety of manufacturing operations. They've I think it's kind of neat that the county has a bourbon distillery, and Olomouc has in this region, they have their plum brandy. So there's a tie-in, on all levels.
Not to try to start a war, but I think I would choose bourbon before plum brandy.
Yeah, I think that goes without saying if you're from Owensboro or really any part of the state, and they've been very receptive in learning more about that.
So I'm also with us today. We have Dr. Elaine Wright, and Dr. Wright, I'm assuming because you have the Brescia University sign behind you that I'm reading backwards, that you are at Brescia University or serve Brescia University in some capacity, but you also serve as the vice president of the Sister Cities organization. Why don't you chime in and say a few words?
Well, Judge, I have to tell you that these other gentlemen in the room did not tell me my image is backwards. It is right side on my view. But I really appreciate your courtesy. I'm going to even point at you, Jordan.
Sorry about that.
Is it really backwards? I'm going to fix that as soon as I'm done talking.
It is backwards. It's not backwards for you because you're facing it, I guess. But when we're looking at it, yeah. So anyway, go ahead. Tell us your relationship and what you think's going on. Yeah.
Is that better for you?
No.
No. Wow.
Don't worry about it.
Man.
Everybody knows that I am from Brescia College before it was ever a university. And whether you're going through Brescia forwards or backwards, Father Larry will give you good guidance and you'll come out on the right side. So,
well, Judge, I'm also from Brescia before it became a university too, but I'm obviously back at it, and delighted to have come back to Owensboro and be part of Sister Cities. And I wanted to first see how much you might need to know about Sister Cities International, just kind of a background that we're part of this larger movement. And I think that's really exciting for Owensboro, that it was created by President Eisenhower, part of a, conference on citizen diplomacy from 1956, and that there are over 1,800 cities that are involved around the world, 138 countries, and Owensboro and Daviess County are part of that. And I think that's really inspiring and exciting. And I can say that Brescia has been involved since the beginning, even on the exploratory study. Sister Ruth Garris, as our president, was involved back in 1993. We've been involved ever since. We've had lots of student exchanges. We continue to have student exchanges, particularly with a partnership in Olomouc.
Not to date Sister Ruth. She taught me German and English lit. I love that. I love that young lady. Notice I called her a young lady, Jatan.
You call me old, so yeah.
I'll see what I can do to make sure she sees this video.
But Elaine, if I may right now, I think it's a good thing to know. They used to be known as a twinning rather than sister city. In the first the whole when it started out, it was 1991 that myself and Dr. Bill West, who had kept the sister city alive for the last 30 some years before he retired, and the Burley Phelan. We went to
Dr. West, Jatan, isn't he in Thailand now? Isn't that
he,
where
he moved into Thailand. He lives in Thailand. Yes,
that's
yes.
what I thought.
Yeah, but it was Bill, myself, and Burley Phelan. Then a tourism director. We went to the international convention, kind of showcase Owensboro, looking for somebody who's gonna take a bite from us. And luckily, Olomouc was the only city, who came down and felt like, there's a lot of commonality. So, that was kind of historical way of getting into the whole thing, So go ahead, Elaine.
Oh, to me, that's all part of the picture. I think that's perfect, Jatan, that we just jump in and just show this is quite a legacy. And I was just thinking, it's since that, like you said, back in 1991, college exchanges have been happening for almost 25 years. We've had internships, we've hosted Fulbrights, we've had faculty go for semesters, we've had so many other people, our partnerships come over. And I think that's really exciting. That's not just Brescia, it's all of the region, Western Kentucky included, with OCTC, which has been an instrumental partner, KWC. And I know we're looking at new ways, post-pandemic restrictions on travel as well, that we can continue to do that. I'm excited to be a part of it. And when I moved back here, Judge, it was a key area that I wanted to be a part of, because that's part of my background, is doing international work. And I've been impressed by what this group has to do.
We're glad that you came back to us, even though you ended up backwards. We also have we also have our Parks Director, Ross Lee, with us. Ross and Jatan and everyone on here, I get a lot of comments sometimes. Well, you're spending some money, and what do we benefit? What industry has come? How many jobs have been created? But the world is not all about necessarily economic development. There's also that cultural component. There's the educational component. And Ross, you've been involved in that side, in that you have hosted international students in your own home, that you have visited Olomouc and represented us. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what you've done?
Well, Judge, the picture that I have over behind me, I took in the center of Olomouc in October of 2019, when I was able to represent Daviess County and the city of Owensboro with the mayor of Olomouc, and to be able to meet with him in his office and to be able to discuss the future of our partnership and this relationship. It's been very encouraging to not only be able to do that from my perspective, but to be able to see that from both of my sons, who have both visited, as well as my wife, since 2016, when we first started as a host family. And then to be able to not only get to be able to understand the culture, but to be able to share those experiences with both my sons. And then our hope is, in this October, Owensboro and Daviess County will receive either 7 or 8 students from Olomouc that are high school. We, again, as a family, will host, hopefully this time, a young lady, so that next year, my daughter then would be able to be able to visit Olomouc and to be able to stay with that family for a couple of weeks, just as those students have been able to stay with my wife and I here in Owensboro and Daviess County, and be able to get them, acclimated to our community. It's really amazing how much they want to be a part of this Western culture that we are so involved with. But to be able to step back, and to lean back and to be able to see the column and the square in Olomouc, and to be able to get, some kind of an understanding of that history, to understand, what it's like to be able to walk down those cobblestone streets and to understand the history of Olomouc and its historical features as a barrier for the city of Vienna, Austria, so many years ago. Is such an opportunity for me to be able to share with my own children and with their peers that were able to travel to Olomouc last in October of 2019. So it's really a unique experience that gives us and then other families with students in high school this year that may be interested in hosting an opportunity to be able to do so.
Ross
thank
is,
you. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Judge, that's the judge. Ross didn't, I don't know that you specifically identified, but that's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. That column behind you, when you think about both history, but also
Yeah.
current.
Okay. I
Yeah.
was thinking that it was just a backwards picture of Ross's new digs down at the Church Singer building.
Man,
Uh,
tough crowd.
over lunch, and this is, I'm throwing this out for anybody, over lunch, during the discussion about this upcoming meeting, it came to mind, and I want to talk about the cost if somebody wanted to participate in an exchange, but it came to mind that unless you are fairly well off, unless you can afford air travel, and unless that perhaps you had some knowledge of a trip coming up and knew somebody, that you wouldn't have the opportunity. And I say that simply because we have many poor folks, poor students, students from the inner city whose parents don't have the money for this kind of a trip, who really would never have an opportunity to do something like this, which would be a life-changing event for them. Have we made any outreach effort trying to get students from a different socioeconomic strata to participate in things like this? I'm just looking at Ross. He's rich. His kids get to do whatever they want. We all know that. But you see where I'm coming from, and I'm not
Yes.
bashing anybody. I'm just,
Yeah.
I hear that. I think we all have a responsibility to particularly in the cultural exchange and educational change, to make sure that our sister cities don't believe that we're just rich and white, a rich white country. So I'm going to open that up for anybody.
Well, I'd be happy to start with that, Judge. Part of the funding that we receive is used for financial support for some of these students. This is a great question because it segues into something that I was going to bring to your attention today. And part of the rationale in this special project is to do exactly what you're talking about with even a greater impact. What we're getting ready to launch is a project that we've been working on for about a year and a half. It's a ambassador program. And part of what this ambassador program is going to do is act as a fundraising arm for the organization so that we can create greater funds to make available for more students that are in socioeconomic areas that may not provide them with what they need. We're going to be able to provide more opportunities specifically because of that program and what we intend to see as a generation of income for the organization. It's not just branding and tighter connection with the community, but it's also about getting more funds out available to children across all lines and making this available to them.
And I appreciate that. And I'm assuming those are private funds so that you won't be putting your hand in the pockets of local government as often like Jatien became so fond of doing when he was at Brad.
Let me talk about that, Judge, since you brought it up, it's quite, I realize that. I think that is the biggest thing, to worry about that. I think at times, some of the families who have wanted to participate, they have done some fundraising on their own.
Mm-hmm.
But when about 2 years ago, when we decided to send a soccer team from our region, Owensboro and Daviess County, to take part in the international soccer tournament in Alamut, I think the grad board, decided to, put some money on the table. I think it was, I believe you missed about $3,000 or so, and some other folks. So
2,000, because to be candid, I voted against doing that.
I agree, but I think you'll change after this Facebook Live discussion.
All right.
But I think that was again to defer the cost going to and on the other side, beside the children, for the adults, in grad we have so many volunteers, different social programs and everything else, and we have Volunteer of the Year award. So going back to the sister region, GRAD put together the GOAL project, and the GRAD Alamuki Cried Area Link. So that way, we have selected 3 volunteers who took part in the social service, senior citizen, AmeriCorps, or even banking and everything else. And then they will spend some time with their fellow agencies in Alamo to learn about how the volunteers and also get a cultural awareness too. And then we have received volunteers from their region to our region. So not only they can learn about how the volunteerism work, but also they get a chance to know about the other country too. So it is if you remember, every time I bring it up to the board meeting, that was the biggest challenge is that what is the return on investment, and sometimes it is not that. And then you always understand that it's not that easy to get them the dollar.
Return on investment isn't always the end goal. A question that was Michael, go ahead, and then I'll bring this other question up.
I was thinking Elaine had something to add.
Oh, sorry, Elaine.
Well, I can add that on the college level too, that the students work to raise funds or they receive support from the university if available. There's some different scholarship opportunities, but I would also say, like you said, Jatan, there are people come over here and do a lot of volunteer work or provide services. We've had art exchanges, we've had other music, we've had a slew of ways that we've been able to have reciprocal agreements. And so I think there's that factor of we want to increase opportunities for all people to participate, and that it wouldn't hurt to always look at, could we do more of that? Could we do it better? So I think it's a key thing for you to ask, but are there ways it's being done that may not have all that much visibility as well? So what can we do to get that information out?
That's true.
I think it's
Well, interestingly enough, in the Sister City Exchange, we ended up in the county with a Czech firefighter. He was a firefighter at the Czech Republic. Zaboral, I think is the name. And he came over, fell in love with a local gal, and joined the Daviess County Fire Department. So that's a pretty cool story. But really, what I wanted to get to, and this is of interest to the college students that go, Ross, tell me how big those steins full of beer were. They were this big.
I don't.
You begged me not to ask that question. That way, you knew I was right.
That's right, Judge.
Okay.
Maybe I can find a picture of Ross to put up behind me.
There,
with the example.
That would be excellent. So tell me, we're running up pretty close to an hour. Tell me what we have planned here in the future. Before we go there, we're talking about the Czech Republic.
Mm-hmm.
How about our sister city in Japan? Tell me about that one. Somebody.
Well, Japan has been a little bit of a challenge as of late. Most of it has to do with the earthquake, the Fukushima meltdown, the tsunami, a change in administration. We've had to sort of temporarily suspend some exchanges there. But there is a new, there's a new administration there, and we're back in line to, reopen those exchange channels like we've had in the past. We've done some exchanges with them between schools, and so that's been a real blessing. But there was just a temporary time there where we just couldn't really do much with them. And then you have the COVID, and that's kind of put a suspense on a lot of our exchange schedules. And so we're already back in the process of communicating with Nishan, and we're already talking to them, and we're in the throes of trying to organize for another new exchange once we can see past the travel restrictions.
Okay.
It's more of a challenge.
Right. And it just came into my little brain that perhaps we ought to contact our friend Bill West in Thailand. It would seem to me that a sister city in Southeast Asia and or China, which those economies absent COVID are booming like the dickens, It seems that we're not limited. There's a good question. Are we limited to the number of sister cities that we would have?
No, sir. We can, at one point we were talking about reaching 4, because once you reach 4, then I believe you qualify for federal funding. We've actually been in conversation in the past about considering a sister city relationship with a community up in Canada and Thunder Bay. And there's been some interest in that, I know, just simply because, it's in Canada. It's within our continental location, and would be a much easier, travel opportunity for everyone to be involved with something like that. So that's been some discussion. We've even had some discussion about other locations in Europe. But we're really focused on trying to get this Japanese relationship back online, back heading in the right direction. And so that's kind of been our focus beyond our special projects locally.
Judge,
Okay, so we're getting ready to wrap up. I would say that probably Ross Lee would be interested in going to Canada since it's cold, doesn't drink beer up there. We're getting ready to wrap this thing up, so I'm going to go around the room to 10. What do you want to tell us?
I was going to tell you that I think if you remember, when we had the International Export Import Summit along with the Czech Republic folks, and we invited folks from other national who own businesses in Bowling Green, in Oaxaca, and we had Japanese people were there, Indian people were there too. And there was a discussion at that time to see if you would potentially have a sister city ties with some city in India because of so much international business going on too. So
that's right.
Those are still open, and unfortunately, I think the timing has been kind of put us in the back because nobody can travel or connect and everything. And at the same time, you brought it up. The finance is a big issue because we don't have luxury like Olomouc City and Olomouc Cry, but they're a full-time staff person and the budget do nothing but work on these things. We are just kind of volunteers, kind of begging and trying to hopefully can continue on the culture benefits. Yeah.
Well, folks, let me assure you that was Jatin crying. I've spent the last 10 years listening to him, and that's the way he cries. Elaine, why don't you give us what would you like to add to today's discussion?
I have 2 things. And the first thing I would say is that, just to go back a little bit, that I'm actually the secretary of the board, and it's our vice president, Catherine Jabojo, who is married to Pavel, the firefighter, which is the wonderful story that should be made into a movie. Another way to recruit.
Yeah. Yeah, well, somebody, I'm going to have to whoop them, probably Jordan Rowe, because they've got you listed as the board VP, but we're going to demote you down to secretary. So what's the other thing that you want?
Well, it's a horizontal collaboration here, but or at least I tell myself that, right? But the other side, I would say, is that for anyone who's watching now or later, we would love to have more involvement. We'd love to have ideas. I think there's, as I said, we've got quite a legacy with all these 25, 30 years. What can be our next 25 and 30 years? And it's really going to be based on the support of folks like you, the ongoing works of the board, but everybody else who can be involved. And so to me, that's exciting to consider. What can we do to bring in our alumni of our programs, but also create future programming that's a great fit for the Owensboro, Daviess County area. And I would just say anybody who's watching, listening at any point, bring us your ideas, bring us your interest and travel with us virtually or by plane or boat or hop, skip, and a jump, however we can get there. We'll take you.
We need all types of people to make up the organization. And unfortunately, Americans here in our community, we have a lot of linear thinkers. We need thinkers who think on the edge of the universe, who is not afraid to go where no man has gone before. And just think outside that box. I hate that trite comment, but we really do, because we should not let any thought go explored. Ross?
Judge, my first thought is of those individuals over the last 30 years that have been so actively involved, those that have retired from our board, I share a very personal friendship with Bill West. I've been in communication with him nearly on a weekly basis through Facebook Messenger. He is highly encouraged by the activity of the board, and it couldn't be done without them. So, for Michael and Jatin and Elena, I'm very thankful for the opportunity to work with them and to support them in their endeavors. It's a very humbling experience to be able to walk into these locations, to be able to get to meet the families that live in those communities around the world, and to be able to understand who they are and to be able to be in communication with them on a regular basis. I mentioned the initial exchange that we hosted. The gentleman's name's Ben. He is now a student studying abroad at Texas A&M University down in College Station. We're very excited about hosting him again in May for a few weeks before his visa expires. So it's just a very humbling experience to get to share this, personally with my family.
Okay, Michael, wrap us up.
Okay, well, in a word, excitement. That's what I see with this group of people. That's what I see with this group of professionals. We're on the threshold, in my opinion, this organization is on the threshold of moving to the next level. This organization is on the threshold of exceeding all local expectations. With what we're working on, with what we're planning, the kinds of dialogue we're having, the places we want to go. In retrospect, I don't think it could be much better, given the size given the number that we have. And I'm like everybody else. This is a train worth riding. I want to have as many people involved as possible. That is one of the reasons why this ambassador program is needed, because we have a group of people out there. When you've been around for 30 years, this is going to happen. We've got a group of people out there that like what we're doing, that want to support it, that in fact do support it. Many do all the time. And so there's a way to harness that and make it better than it is. And I see that as a springboard for taking this organization to the next level, be it multiple sister cities beyond the two we have, a much bigger opportunity for involvement by the schools and the children that go there, a bigger presence with universities, not just locally, but schools like Murray State and WKU and UK. We've had students from UK and Murray State involved in these exchanges before. So, I think there's a lot of excitement. There's a lot of opportunity. We've got a great board. We're recruiting. We've got interest. It's just, there's nothing bad to say about this. I mean, even when we have these Zoom meetings with Citrus City International, and we're talking to people in Zoom format from all over the country, from coast to coast, one thing is plain, one thing is made very obvious. Owensboro is not only represented in these meetings, but in a greater way than anyone else that's at the meeting. I mean, there's not one or two of us there, there's 3, 4 of us there. And nobody else is doing that unless they have an ambassador program. So, the opportunity's there, and I'm excited to be part of it.
Okay. Well, Michael, thank you. I want to thank everybody for participating today. These are the kinds of things that we need to do in our community to get information out about those hidden gems that no one knows about. I'm going to close just by stating that 2 good friends of mine, former Judge Executive Reed Hare and former Mayor, the late Mayor Wayman Morris, were big supporters of sister cities. And I think at that time, there's a lot of enthusiasm going on. Don't know what happened. I suspect the market failure in 2008, the ice storm in 2009, and COVID and all those things kind of, the enthusiasm waned. That would be one thing. And familiarity a lot of times, is even a good marriage sometimes kind of slows down a little bit. It needs some energy pumped into it. And from what I've heard today, and particularly out of your your conversation with us, Michael, that enthusiasm is coming back. It's going to be restored, and we're going to see sister cities in our area anyway, and those that we're invested with. We're going to see that organization really take off and shine. So once again, thank each and every one of you for being here. Have a safe rest of the week.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you,
Great
Judge.
leadership in that.
Thank you all for
Yes.
being here.